Well, first, welcome and good morning or good evening, wherever you are on the planet. It's fun to see all the faces and all the people. Yesterday at what's the time, 3 o'clock or something like that, they said, "Oh my goodness, Matt is not going to make it," and there are a couple other trainers who have things as well. So I was thinking, all right, I have the hour free. I'm going to do it. But then you're leading a workshop on imposter syndrome with zero prep, and I mean, seriously, talk about imposter syndrome. It's an interesting thing. How many people here? Let's just start with a little what do you say it? Not a game, but like an icebreaker kind of thing. How many people here on a scale of 1 to 10? Please put it in chat or voices, maybe 2 or 3. How many people have, or where are you at with addressing imposter syndrome? And I think it probably mostly starting your career, or let's say getting clients, or after you have a handful of clients, you feel like client sessions don't go that well. What is the biggest burning problem that you feel like you're facing? Let's throw that in chat. What is the biggest burning problem you feel like you're facing? Yeah. Thanks everyone. All right. So let's go. Should we go first with imposter syndrome and coaching sessions themselves, and then move towards, the doubts around um, uh, building client base? Let's start with in session first. All right. So in session, when I was thinking about this briefly last night, like what to do, like what tools, and I think there are 3 that I used and that I would recommend the most. The tool that I used the absolute most, and it's been the foundation of everything, even when things get really, really hard or when things are really, really good, whatever's happening, is the idea of having a very clarified, very clear vision. And with this vision, I've even come to add a couple specific elements to it. What I mean by a clarified vision is something that you can literally see, taste, hear, sense, touch. Like it has to have a definition. I'm working with a developer right now, a couple of them. One of them his name is Henry. And sometimes, we're rolling out some updates on the student dashboard. And sometimes Henry will say, "John, you're all over the place. Define the problem." I love that question. Define the problem. And so when you're asking yourself, in this vision of what you want to create in the future, what's the problem you're solving? And the problem you're solving, it's not a problem in your own life, like how can I get more clients, but it has to be an empathetic problem that you solve. And so the contour of the vision has to be an empathetic, this is what I'm doing for the sake of the world. This is what I'm doing for the sake of the clients that I want to reach. It's an empathetic purpose. And it has to have a vision around it. For me, it was always like, what if every teacher were academic life coach trained, or if every student could experience what it's like to have academic life coaching? That has been the vision and the driving force, even when it gets really hard, when it's really good, when it's really anything. That is the driving vision. It's clear, you could measure it, you could see it. Are people certified or not? Are students getting coaching sessions or not? Is the future of education going to be towards what's coaching? All of these things is that vision. So when things go really well, it feeds into that vision too. When things are really hard, think of that sophomore who's floundering in a fixed mindset, crushing system. All right, I'll make that phone call. I'll reach out. I'll do the hard thing. And trust me, I have seen it. I cashed out at, after 6 years of teaching high school, I cashed out for $10,000 401k, got a lecture from the banker, had a 1-year-old living on hopes and dreams. We had lawn furniture for our living room table for years. We were month to month for 2 years, and Moise and I are living on hopes and dreams and making this thing work. I know what it's like to stare at the money monster. And when you're in that space, that dream of what you have to do for this, like what you feel called to do in this life, in this world, that space, you have to have a vision to protect that space. So no matter whatever present circumstances are happening, the vision becomes stronger than the present negative circumstances. When that vision is stronger than the negative present circumstances, you can lean into it. It's almost like you give life to it. You give life to that vision. And when that vision has a certain life of its own, it's almost like it's like a future, almost like a future self vision in a way. And you relate to it. And sometimes it feels like you're closer to it. Sometimes you feel like you're far away from it. But having that, what I think the thing that did for me when looking back and reflecting on it is that it helps get you out of your own way. It completely changes the context, even for the space of imposter syndrome, even to exist. It doesn't have space to exist when you're doing all this work and effort for the sake of other people and the sake of a larger mission and vision. You just have to someone has to get the work done. Who's going to do it? It has to be her. It's to you, apparently. So when you're in this space and, things happen, you get to certain levels, you start to figure out, what works and doesn't work. But as long as the vision is there, having that clarified vision, be able to define it as thing one, define the problem, define the vision, give it boundaries, give it as much as you can. The second thing, it has to be empathetic. It has to be something not about you. It has to be something bigger than you. Like, what are you trying to see? And then the third thing, it has to have a structure. You have to have a way to remind yourself of the vision on a regular basis, whatever it takes. Is it a vision recording, which is my preference? Is it a vision board, which I've seen? Is it sticky notes? Is it a collage of things that's in the background of your computer? I used to buy orchids whenever, and something to celebrate would happen, and go out and get an orchid until we got to a point when Moise is telling me, we're going to be those weird orchid people. We have like 3 or 4 of them in each room. At the one, I'd find places for the orchids, and then you could keep them, keep them alive for years and make them grow another flower stock. So got rid of the orchid. Still love plants, but left the orchid. And it was like an orchid phase. Yeah, I mean, whatever you have to do to remind yourself of the empathetic purpose of the vision that you're going after. That's the key. I'll stop here, pause here, thoughts, comments. And you can ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing on each of those things? Like, do you have a clarified vision? To what degree is it empathetic? And to what degree do you have a strong reminder of it? My 90% of my career was working with students, 10% was working with executives. And because of that, I met with a lot of students after school. And so from about 3 to 7, it worked out when the little ones were little, because, we could hang around them, and then I just laughed when it was really the hard time. I got to go because I got clients. But I would go to coffee shops in different places around the city in Portland. And I would I had 3 or 4 visual recordings by that time that I would listen to, like back to back. I have like my playlist. So I listen to my playlist, go to my sessions, do 3 to 5 sessions, and then listen to my playlist again on the way back. And by the time I got home, it's around 7:30 or so. I was so hyped on life. I was so just like, we're saving the world. We're doing client sessions, and we're listening to my vision recordings and like that kind of thing. But it was a structure. It was a way to listen to it on the daily. And there were times when I felt like, and you felt like this too when you're in coaching sessions, that, you were born to do this work. This is work that you feel like when you're in this space, like, yes, like I am using my human energies in ways that I get to have a front row seat in another human being's development and their ability to break new ground and gain new insight. That's a huge place of privilege and all the good feels of fulfillment that you get from that. You got to find structures for this. You have to find ways to make this work, mostly for the sake of that feeling, for the sake of humanity. Does this make sense? All right, so how are we doing? Scale of 1 to 10. Like, are you seeing things? Those visual recordings are amazing. I play them for my kids sometimes, and sometimes I have slower ones, more meditative ones, and there's some that are more hypey ones, and ones that are more, you just get a flavor. So when you're making them or you're doing them, please don't feel like you have to capture your whole thing in one. That seems to be one of the things that trips people up a lot. If they feel like they have to make one that's absolutely perfect and it's going to stay the way it stays forever. You want like, the album, and then the new album, and then the new album. Sometimes they would make them for trips. Like there's a big trip or conference coming up. I'll make one specific for that little trip. So it's playing one for the kids, and it was a more meditative one. And this is when my now 16-year-old was little. She said, "Dad, why is this one sad?" I'm like, "It's not sad. This one's happy. It's just slow. It's okay." All right. So that was big thing. So that's there. The other thing, starting out, okay, so in coaching sessions themselves, and then we'll go to marketing. In the coaching session itself, it took me about 2 years to figure it out. But I think the training is so oriented that I think new coaches, it doesn't take them 2 years anymore. The thing that took me 2 years to figure out was, how do I stop problem solving? How do I stop trying in this session to prove that coaching is worth it? My advice on this is just stop. Just stop. Like, don't. Get over it. Coaching works. You can stay in curiosity, and staying curious is, that's it. Stay curious. That really is like half of coaching. The other half is all the, the structures and the, scaffold of ideas that you can then hang your curiosity on. But curiosity really is the foundation for everything, and it works. You can trust yourself, you can trust the system, you can trust the process. The thing that really took me 2 years to figure out, and this is back in the mid 2000s when coaching really wasn't that well known, is that in sessions, I would try to define a problem. I'd try to solve the problem in the session, and then I'd try to tell them, or show them, hey, this solved problem is worth the 50 or 100 or whatever the session was that you're paying me for. All right. Is anyone else in this space? Does this sound familiar? Especially when you have 3 clients. You're like, okay, 3 clients, please love me. Please, please, please let this work. Put all this time and money into it. It's got to be good. Then the thing too with it is, I knew that coaching was amazing because I was a client. And I knew what coaching did in my life. And I worked with a couple really good coaches. And it's part of the reason why the training is designed the way it is, that you are coached so much in these training sessions, because people need to know what it feels like to be coached. And the thing that helped me the most was working with some really good coaches and people, and knowing what I liked myself. And what I liked myself is, I like just the space to process whatever I needed to process. You know it too, right? All the coaching sessions that you've ever had. And bad coaching sessions too, right? What happens in bad coaching sessions, or coaching sessions that annoy you? What are some characteristics of those? So, just from the training itself is so oriented towards you're getting the experience and learning what coaching is, because you are a client of coaching itself. And if you don't have a coach that you're meeting with every other week, reach out to a classmate. Everyone's looking for practice clients. Do a trade of some sort. Get coached every other week so you can mostly experience what coaching does in your own life. And oh, wow, I really like it when someone asks a powerful question and they just let me think. They just let me feel. That, in this noisy world, is enough. If you want advice, you can go Google it. You'll get 100 million pieces of advice in about 0.006 seconds. The premium in this world is space. The premium in this world is listening. And just listening is it's amazing. Like, what human beings are hungry to be listened to. I forget where it was. I came across this recently, but someone said something. They said, are you listening with the same level of passion that you wish to be listened to? it was interesting they used the word passion. You're listening to the same passion that you wish to be listened to. It took me 2 years to get over that. Part of it, the training I took was condensed into weekends, which I don't like to, we don't do those. And I wasn't coached as regularly as I probably should. Like, looking back, I wanted to be or needed to be. Big turning point came for me too when I stopped trying to figure out what was going to be, how much my clients enjoyed the sessions. I wasn't really good at determining how much value my clients were getting the sessions until about 3 years in. And then I could tell and you could feel it. I could say, oh yeah, they're processing. Now I can just let this be. I used to feel like when they were saying they're processing, it was like, ooh, they're like, I needed feedback from me a lot. You can chime in too.
I was going to add that this is incredibly helpful. And all what you have shared, I remember like seeing it too with like our course materials. And something that I keep thinking too is just, I think maybe this gets better hopefully over time. Like the more that you practice with clients and practice like getting out of the way and employing empathy. And I know that's something that I'm working on, is just trying to stop thinking about myself. And just, listening and not problem solving, not advice giving, all those things. And I think what you mentioned, like that the space to process and just being listened to and being heard is what people are really looking for. And so, this is really great. Thank you.
Yeah, it is something that I feel like it's okay to come back and get the message over and over again. It's not, it's like why people go to church, because you get the similar messages over and over again. Like, it's a community feel. It's almost, I've gotten to the point where it's almost like I need to be reminded of even some of the things I say myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get where's my vision recording? Like, I gotta get a new one on deck here, new one on tap. I was thinking, even doing these once a month, I feel like, even if I say the same thing the same way, let's get that raw energy. It matters. It matters to have communities like this and places where that you feel like you can go and get the perspective shift that you need to get again, even if it's the same perspective again and again. There's one time, I don't know why it sticks out so much in my mind. There was one time something happened, and this is early-ish. And I had a garden bed I was making in the back. We were still renting at the time, but I was like, we're going to make a garden, and I got to make a garden. So I was out there, and wasn't big, but I had a shovel, and something was on my mind that was bugging me. I don't even remember what that was, but I do remember the process. And I remember every time it was bugging me, I would take the shovel, put it in the earth, and then just flip it over. And then every time I flipped it over, I'd go back to that positive vision. And then the problem would come again. And I just another shovelful. And it just felt like I just had to work so effortful to get that inner world, to get that vision to be more powerful than the present problem, that it just felt like each shovelful of making that garden felt like a metaphor for sometimes what it feels like when you're in that space of, am I worth it? Is it okay? Am I doing what I need to do? And then by the time I finished the garden bed, I felt better. I felt like it wasn't very big. It was like maybe 4x8. Like, we're not talking like, we're thinking small, like, like a size of sheet of plywood or something, not large, but enough to, get in there. And the backyard was very tiny. But it's looking at what structures you have for yourself, when you shovel, and it's okay. It's okay if it feels like every 10 seconds you got to do another one. That's the work. That's the inner work. And I feel like this inner work, I wanted it to be something I could take for granted. Like, of course, I'm going to wake up happy and like productive and do all my things that I need to do. It's like, no. Making sure you have the structures to wake up, get into a good headspace and emotional space and do what you need to do is about a third of your work. it should be about a third. And that's okay. Let it be okay to be okay. I think in my past, I wanted to be 5%. It's about 30. And I think the problem is that I would judge myself that it would take so long or the structures I needed were so strong to get me where I needed to be. Like, I let that judgment go. I'm probably one of the worst people to give an imposter syndrome talk. In some ways. I was thinking about that last night. I was like chuckling to myself. Talk about imposter syndrome. All right. I would love to hop off in groups to do just 5 minutes. We'll do this. Just like, and please set a timer and do 5 minutes one person, 5 minutes the other person. So here's a very clear question. The clear question is, what structures do you have in place to help you clarify that vision, do that inner work? What do you need in 5 minutes each? Set a timer and switch. We're going to come back at 7:40 my time in 10 minutes. Fantastic. All right, 3 takeaways really quick. Three big takeaways, or put them in the chat. If you have one you want to share, let that energy just float out there a little bit. Let's hear 3 voices and then let's talk marketing a little bit and then we'll call it good.
What was the question?
What was 3 things that you've take away, an insight?
Something I took away from even just this whole meeting is that I think that everybody kind of has that inner like guilt or inner insecurity that they're not enough.
Mm-hmm.
They don't belong, and everyone wants to feel like they belong. And I think that's inherently what kind of draws a lot of us to coaching, is to want to make people feel heard and like they have a place to be and express themselves and such. And so I think when we hit ourselves, I think that's what like awesome when you said that we should like once a week do a coaching session ourselves, because then it gives us the space to feel heard and express, because that's where a lot of my growth happened through the class. Is like I would just be saying something just for a practice session, and next thing you know, I'm like uncovering layers that I didn't even know were there. So pour out, and I think so I think that's very beneficial to like getting rid of that imposter syndrome, is holding that space for yourself and honoring yourself to be like, hey, like I am enough and I am able to do this, and it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love what you said about uncovering layers that you did not even know were there. I think that is, it in yourself too, when you have a good coaching session that does that for you. You think, okay, this is priceless. This is the big deal. All right, one more. We'll talk marketing.
I can share something. So it was interesting. We didn't get too much into like all the tools for how we remind ourselves, but just like talking about what drew me to coaching was like such a reminder and a motivator. And I feel like sometimes I get so caught up in like, getting the clients, doing the work, that it was like you take a step back and you're like, oh, wait, like, let me talk about why I got into this. And it's like all of a sudden you can have that internal feeling of like, yeah, this is why I'm doing this. So there's like a much bigger picture. And it was like a really good reminder for me. So, yeah.
I think I saw a post. Was it a book or there's a post or something that went on recently? Like always remember your first why. That was cool. What was your first why you got into this? I know it was an affirmation card. That's what it was. You got some of those floating around this household. Always remember your first why. All right. Which is a good jumping off point to the business side of it too, because I feel like they go in 2 different ways. And two different streams of thought and thinking, but they do have a lot of overlap. So the main thought stream thinking when you're doing coaching sessions is to coach the client, not the problem. Right? It's like you're working with the client. When you're marketing, you're coaching the problem. you are addressing the problem. You are asking yourself, what are the biggest, prickliest problems that people have? Because that's where you get people's attention. We just went to a conference and NACADA in Orlando, it's a national advisor conference. And there may be, I don't know, 4,000 people there, between 3,000 to 4,000. And they have around 10 concurrent sessions happening. You can see like how many attendees are in each one. It's a very fascinating, data collection of like what are people interested in, what are they going to for, and the ones that I think that really spoke to a pain point that an advisor had were the more popular ones. And good marketing is speaking to someone's pain points. And the way to do that is to guess. You got to guess. You got to go empathetic. You got to go there. And then the second way to do it is to find them and ask them and do interviews. Do ideal client profile interviews. It's official. And I was a Latin teacher. So I literally taught a dead language to teenagers. That was my career. That's what I did. And I did that for hours a day. And then I find coaching, and then I have to figure out, okay, now I have to sell coaching. All right. And then to talk about a learning curve, and one of the biggest different milestones, turning points for me, Gerber, like E-Myth Revisited, that was a big one, in the sense of looking at building a business, like a system, where you're working on the business, not in the business. So trying to like work on the systems that you have, just that concept alone, even the system of, okay, how do I keep my mental emotional space in where I need it to be? That's a system. That was a big one. Selling the Invisible, Harry Beckwith. That was another huge one. And the idea there is, if you're selling something that is invisible, like a coaching session, especially something that's new, you have to get really good at being able to pinpoint the problems that people are feeling and diagnose them and get into them. And so these client interviews, you want to sound super negative, Magna. Like these interviews, these client negative, yeah, like you tell me the worst things you're ever dealing with. I was just talking to Ashley, and she's like, every coach has imposter syndrome. I'm like, yeah, I know, I went through it too. Like everyone does. Like this is like if this were a path, it's like, okay, now you're in imposter syndrome, Forrest. How long are you going to be here? Not like, are you avoiding it, but how long are you here? Is kind of the thing. And it's a lot like, when you're talking to clients, it's what it boils down to. What I found from doing them myself is everyone is asking, am I enough? It's almost the point of every coaching session. Like it gets to this point of, am I a worthy human? It's usually a yes, no question. Like a very there's a big gulf between those things. Am I okay or not okay? There's no in between, right? Digital thinking. So it's a lot of, in the ideal client profiles, it's you're asking people, it's not a coaching session. It's definitely not a coaching session. It's hey, I need some help. I'm trying to market this thing. I have a vision. This is what the vision is. This is what I want. This is the change I want to do in this world. I need your help. And I need your help by really digging in there. I'd love to hear the kind of words you're using, when you're at your very hardest, how is, what are some of the things you're saying? These are things I need to do for marketing. And, this is the product that I have. Like this is what coaching does, but I need to get this because I just need to take the guesswork out of it. You can be 100% transparent about why you're doing it, what you're doing it, what you need from it. I did, I worked with a couple marketers just recently, like 6 months ago. And they really put me through this. There was one who said he wanted me to, he didn't want me to conduct them, but he wanted to conduct 20 interviews and put all this stuff on spreadsheets. And this is what big organizations and corporations do. And it's why sometimes our marketing is so on point, is because they understand the value and have the resources to do this kind of legwork with really getting in there and doing the market research. For us starting out, a solopreneur doing this, I'm thinking maybe 3 conversations is all you would need, but at least do 3. Find them, ask them. It will surprise you. And if it only confirms what you already are thinking and believing, then you'll just have more confidence going there harder. And that's valuable too. They're called ideal client interviews. They're about 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. It's a very transparent process where you have to let people know that what I'm after are the pain points. I know it's not going to be super positive or negative, but even hearing them talk about the pain points and getting in there, people tend to feel relief too. ICPs is what they were calling them. Okay, so then what do you do with the ICPs? Then you start to put together some of your marketing material, your workshops, the buzz that you're building for the workshops or for the thing that you're doing. The next step is to find a way to craft a workshop, a free offering, something of value to people. And then you say, this workshop is dealing with this pain point. Like today, this workshop is dealing with the pain point of imposter syndrome. 20 people show up. It's gnarly. You got to get in there and be like the most, the stressiest thing to do, Speaking of which, I was talking to Ashley, like, should we do this again? You want to do it again in a month? Another one? Ashley, like a theme, next. This is the next one is I like to do The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. Has anyone read this one recently? A while ago? Soul of Money, Lynn Twist. It's good. It's good. I've gone through it. I'm revisiting a lot of the business materials. So this is going to make it in there in leadership program. I think we're doing I want to put on we're looking at doing an in-person conference too. Coach Training EDU in-person conference. Tentatively, Denver, September 2024. So 11 months from now. But we'll see. No, Ashley's like, oh my goodness, John, what are we doing? Really? Yes.
Hey, I hope it happens, and I hope to see all of you there. It would be wonderful to see you in person.
Really, we'll see what happens. But yeah, so maybe next month let's do Soul of Money. Maybe mid, before all the holiday stuff kicks up, because it's a big one, and it's the main point of it. The main idea is the opposite of scarcity is not abundance. The opposite of scarcity is enoughness. And the idea that when you even are aiming for abundance, you still have to deal with it, and you're spending your time dealing with the excess and the feeling of that. And instead looking at what is truly enough, and what if enough is enough? Like you don't need more than enough. So it's a different way of thinking about even the vision, the goals of what you're going for, right? It's a good one. So for the marketing, I would just go for those interviews. I would focus only on that at first. Do the ideal client profile interviews, and from there, the insights you get, combined with having a very strong vision, the next steps become very clear. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like the pathway is clear. It's just, the deep breaths it takes to actually do it. That's the hard part. You got to ask like 10 people and get 3 interviews. And really? Guess my job today? Yeah, it's your job today. Thoughts, questions? No, there's no tools on ICPs yet. It's a relatively new concept for me as well. I mean, I did it brief, like way back in the day for the clients I worked with. But to have a formal I can show you the spreadsheets that the consultants I hired gave me. And I felt like they were way overkill, like way like, okay, this is super detail oriented. This is not really what I want to do. We did 7 of them. And then it came to a point when I thought, okay, I get it now. Like it was helpful. The main pain points all coaches feel are it's a lot around business building and balance and feeling like I don't know, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, feeling of enoughness came up a lot. But the thing that surprised me the most was I thought that there was a lot of happiness and celebration of the research base and footnotes and just, all the research, things like that. No, on a scale of importance on a 1 to 10, it was like a 2. I mean, before I thought it was more like an 8 or 9. So surprise. That was my big surprise. It was a good surprise for me because otherwise I just would have been talking about footnotes forever. So I'm glad it's there, but you know what I mean. You get the idea. All right. Well, let's see if we can do it again next month. Soul money. We're gonna put it out there for people.
Yeah. And so we'll share the next workshop. We also, Sonia, one of our trainers, amazing trainer, she is leading a workshop next Friday on breath work. And so please join us there. Even if you're not on the wellness track, you're welcome to join that. Matt is going to reschedule hopefully for another time in November. So keep a look at, we'll go on to a deeper dive on this topic as well. And we'll have more workshops coming up. We're going to start doing more weekly things and more things for engagement with the coaching community. So we'd love to see you there. Thank you so much for showing up today. It's always good to get to see you in live time and not just through email or hear about how awesome you are for your trainers. So thank you for being here. Again, like John said, please reach out to me if you have any ideas of what you would like to see, what would be helpful for you in the community. Kind of similar to the client profile, I would love to be able to have some insights from you on what would help support you best and help you feel connected to everybody else. So thank you again. Have an amazing rest of your week, and we hopefully will see you next time.